This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
In the early autumn of 1783, Thomas Jefferson, former governor of Virginia, author of the Declaration of Independence, and newly appointed Virginia delegate to the Congress of the Confederation, rode downhill from his home at Monticello, not yet the neoclassical temple it is today, past Charlottesville to a spot not far from the southern bank of the South Fork of the Rivanna River. There, on land patented by Thomas Mormon in 1735, stood an earthen mound known locally as the Indian Grave. One of a cluster of 13 in the region, dating from 900 to 1700 CE, this mound was roughly round in shape, about 40 feet in diameter, and had originally stood perhaps a dozen feet high at its peak. At least that's how Jefferson remembered it from his childhood, living in the Jefferson family home at Shadwell, when he had, from time to time, observed what he called the barrow, then covered in trees a foot in diameter. He had inherited half of the Shadwell land as Monticello upon his father's death. The rest went to Jefferson's brother Randolph. Unfortunately, a decade earlier, the mound had been stripped of its trees and leveled off at around 7.5 feet, and it had then been used as a platform to grow crops. Jefferson remembered as a child seeing a group of local Monicans, among the last living in the region, make a pilgrimage to the tree-covered mound back when it was still whole. The small group went through the woods directly to it, without any instructions or inquiry, and having stayed about it some time with expressions which were construed to be those of sorrow, they returned to the high road which they had left about a dozen miles to pay this visit, and pursued their journey. Such pilgrimages would continue off and on into the early 19th century, with an ever-dwindling number of Monicans traveling to the mound to pay homage to the dead and dance around fires on or beside the mound. Sorrow must have been on Jefferson's mind as he made his way to the mound. His wife Martha had died almost exactly a year earlier, and here he was about to tear open an ancient grave and rifle through the dusty bones. Jefferson had tried and failed that spring to take up an appointment to a European court, and returned home disappointed when the plan fell through. He had been at Monticello since May 15th, and would not leave to attend Congress in Annapolis, the new temporary capital, until October 16th. In the months before his departure, he had some time for writing. In the summer, he completed a draft of the massive study of his home state that would in time become Notes on the State of Virginia, 1785. After finishing the draft, he thought it worthwhile to add a bit more about the native mounds around his home. Since the Indian grave had already been partially destroyed, it seemed a good candidate for Jefferson to explore to determine exactly for what purpose the local Monican people had constructed such edifices, whether the mound was meant as a general cemetery, a royal tomb, or a mass grave for war dead. To determine this, he would help invent a new science, archaeology. But at no point did he ever doubt that the native people of North America were responsible for the mound's construction. The opinion that America's mounds were the work of native people was not terribly controversial prior to the Revolutionary War. Among men of science it was a fact so well established that it required neither explanation nor defense.